Yeah,
for the
we're actually
leukemia.
here. This is not an optical illusion or CG.
Yeah, you are not hallucinating.
It's
Maybe
me.
they are.
Maybe you are.
Maybe you wanna be.
By now, if you're not, what's wrong with you? Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the live stream for Animation Heroes. This is a 24-hour live stream to support the Leukemia Lymphoma Society's push to get clinical trials going to eradicate chemotherapy and replace it with a pill-based immunotherapy solution. We have Matt Danner, the voice of Baby Kermit from Muppet Babies. We have Eric Bauza, the voice of Baby Fozzie. We have Chris Moreno, art director from Muppet Babies. And if you saw Muppet Babies, you saw what Chris did to make that show shine. And every ship needs a captain, and the captain of this ship was one Mr. Tom Warburton.
Yes!
Hey!
Yes!
I am your host, Joe Sichta. This is my co-host, Collette Sunderman. We are here to raise money for this super important cause, to talk about the way animation is made, but most importantly, to get these fabulous groups of people back together. We don't get to see each other. After pandemic, we don't really get to spend time in rooms with each other anymore. We used to live like this, and we're trying to live like this again until we realize why we don't do this anymore. Oh yeah, this was a terrible idea. But
there was a lot of moisture and saliva exchange in this room, actually.
Yeah, just before we went on. Yeah.
Kermit and I took the liberty of shining those lights that they have on CSI, those black lights.
Yeah.
Lots of evidence in this room.
Okay, a Jackson Pollock painting.
I'm gonna have to take this whole
Disgusting.
room to the dry cleaner. Salami Studios. Wipe your feet before you walk in here.
A lot of history in this room. A lot of careers made in this room because of you guys giving people like myself and Matt a chance.
Oh, this is where we did the pilot for Kids Next Door, where I first met Colette.
Yes. And Kenny
and Kenny the Chimp. That was the first pilot, and then after
Codename
that
Kids
didn't go.
Next Door, you guys. All of
Kids
you.
Next Door.
Creator. Codename Kids Next Door.
Yeah.
Yes. That is Tom, Mr. Warburton.
You know, and
Pretty proud of
let's
him.
go there for a second.
Yes.
You shared a story once about how you found out that Codename Kids Next Door got picked up for the cartoon.
Well, they were doing, at the time, they were doing the Big Pick Weekend because they were too lazy to decide, for themselves which show should become a series. They said, let's let the viewers figure it out. So the first time they did it, there were 3 cartoons, and the one that won was my good friend Maxwell Adams. Billy and Mandy won. So as that started moving forward, then they decided to do another Big Pick Weekend with 10 pilots. So I lived in New York at the time. They moved me out here for a couple months to make the pilot, where the first person I met was you.
Yes.
And we were in the studio recording, like auditioning voices and stuff like that. And but then we made the pilot, and then they they spent the entire summer showing the pilots over and over and over again and telling viewers, you'll get to vote. And when the vote came up, I had to find out just like everyone else. Like I had to sit there, I just sit and watch the show. And at that point, I didn't even care if I won. I just wanted to be over.
I bet.
That's like becoming the president, right?
Yeah.
It's a national humiliation, right?
So like they say, okay, the second runner up, and they show it in a cartoon, and I'm like, not mine. Okay, it's not mine. But then you got to sit through that cartoon. And then and then a commercial, and then a commercial break comes out, and it's 7 minutes, and it feels like it's been 13 years. So the commercial goes by, you're like, yeah, McDonald's, who cares? Shut up. Then they say the next runner up, and then you're like, not mine. Okay, great. Now you got to sit through that thing, and then wait for that. Then
That's
a commercial.
ridiculous. How many?
3. There's thankfully 3.
Okay.
Out of the 10.
Okay.
So the commercial ends, and they said, and now the winner of the Big Pick Weekend, and Kids Next Door started on a black frame with the sound of a phone ringing.
No
That's
way.
right. That's
And my wife and I were in front of the TV, and she had me in a headlock, like we were this close, just staring. And then all it took was like half a beat to hear that telephone, and Meg just screamed and started running around the apartment. I just put my head down on the floor and said, "Oh my God, now I have to make it."
Now
Oh my gosh! Now I have to move to LA for a while.
So here's the real funny thing. To vote, this is pre-internet and stuff. So you could call in, but you could only vote twice by one phone number. So I had an early version of a cell phone back then. So I would call from my landline, from my cell phone, and from my wife's cell phone, and you could do it once a day. And there was a chance, if you voted, you could win a TV VCR combo.
Wow.
I won a TV VCR combo.
Yes, sir.
And I thought, well, if I don't win this thing, I'm getting a TV VCR
Right.
combo. But then I couldn't get it because I was technically an employee of Cartoon Network. So.
You voided
Well,
that.
he
You
won.
So I took the show.
Oh,
And
you only need to see your
You won
contract.
twice that day.
I won twice.
You won twice
So,
that
yes,
day,
yeah.
and I won because you won.
Right.
And I got to play on Codename Kids Next
Yeah.
Door for the next how many years? How many seasons did we do, Mr. Warburton?
6 seasons.
Jeez
It was unheard of at that time.
Yeah.
It was.
And now it's unheard of now.
Right?
Also, the season numbers were different back then. I think it was like a season was like 13 half hours or something
Okay.
like that.
Gotcha.
But no show had gone beyond on Cartoon Network had gone beyond 52.
Right.
So I think the first two shows to do that were Billy and Mandy and my show. And now, like, then Adventure Time, I think, went up to like 11.
Yeah.
Like, so they
11
they went way beyond that.
11
But like,
billion.
so Kids Next Door, Billy and Mandy, and Whatever Happened to Robot Jones. Greg Miller was also went to school in Philadelphia, so we were known as the Pennsylvania farm team. And one by
never
one,
heard that.
one by one, we all got shows.
And you all won.
Nice.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
And so you guys
Robot
became sort of
Jones.
a graduating class of.
We did, yeah. Well, we were
yeah.
sort of like the next generation. Like, there was the Gendy Craig, Powerpuff
Right.
Girls, and Dexter, which is why I wanted a
Right.
show on Cartoon
Right.
Network.
They were the first pass. They were
I
the
wanted
first-
to be like amongst those shows.
Donovan,
And
yeah.
when I first came to do Kenny the Chimp, the first thing I did was hunt down those guys. I'm like, draw me a picture.
Yeah.
And I still have it.
Well, I remember
course
that
you do.
era. I was living in Illinois at the time and trying to figure out how I was ever going to come to Los Angeles to get into cartoons. And I didn't have cable, and I didn't know, but my mom had Cartoon Network. And so whenever I would go visit her, I'd like flip through to Cartoon Network, like, is this cartoon thing
Yeah.
happening? And I'm like, it's Penelope Pitstop.
Right.
From 1965. What is this thing?
Because Ted Turner bought everything, all of Hanna-Barbera's library. Yep, that's why Cartoon Network had
Well,
all of those
yeah.
wonderful old shows.
And it's still trying to find itself.
Yeah.
Even after all these years, there's still
work in progress.
I feel like Boomerang finally is whoever is doing the programming on it right now currently
Right.
is amazing. They're doing all the weird
Yes.
Yogi,
Right.
Yogi and the Space Cadet.
You'll
Whatever.
just turn it on and like you'll see Devlin. And you're like, what is that?
Wow, come out.
That's a deep cut for the folks at home.
Let's jump ahead to how I met these guys. So 10,000 years later, I moved from New York to here, and I'm working at Disney on a show that was wrapping up, and Nancy Cantor, the head of Disney Junior, called me up and said, like, I got this show I think you'd be perfect for. I said, well, what's that? She said, we're rebooting Muppet Babies. And I was like, okay, how you gonna do that?
How are you going
And
to
she
one
said,
up?
and she said, well, this Disney internal group did a little 2-minute teaser, and you got to see it. It's amazing. And she showed it to me, and I was like, oh, like I can do something. Like I can do something with this. This is great. And it turns out it was these guys that did it. That did that pilot.
Yes.
And Joe.
And Joe, right? Joe,
Yeah.
Joe was the boss of
Yes.
of the Disney Interactive
Yes,
group.
he was.
The advanced media
Yeah.
team.
Yeah,
they call
guys,
it.
can we do something like this? Yeah.
So that was
gave us some money.
That was born. At which department at Disney was this? This is like
I can tell
was
a
it
story.
a
So,
traditional?
there you go.
Well, here's what's great.
Super secret, like clandestine group.
Yeah.
Well, it was
Black Ops.
Yeah, we were like Black. We were Disney Interactive Labs. So there's Disney Interactive, which was its own like future-facing gaming side of technology side of Disney, and then they had something called Interactive Labs, which was like, let's figure it all out. And they hired me to come in because of Shaolin Showdown,
Right,
which
right,
you were,
right.
Shaolin Chronicles. Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you did Showdown. Matt did Showdown. We did Shaolin Chronicles. Eric was on phone.
Yeah.
So this is like, it almost
I was saying.
none of this happens without Christy Hui. None of this.
Right.
None of this. It doesn't happen
That's very true.
because I met Chris Moreno on
Met
Shaolin
Collette.
Chronicles, and that's how we met
We were
Collette.
in these booths.
Arguably the best dressed in animation, aside from Tom, Christy Hui.
Christy Hui.
Always had the
Christy Hui,
designer
creator,
everything. Yeah.
creator of the
If
Shaolin
you-
universe.
If you could keep up with that mind.
She is fabulous. I want to attach jumper
my
cables
gosh.
to her and just let her go someday. And anyway, that show, Shaolin Chronicles, that Chris and I worked on together, and Eric was voice. We of many voices.
Where was David King?
Yeah, David King was sitting in that chair earlier.
Was he here?
Yeah, so there's this, I'm like, there's this other guy, and he's like, it's me, you dummy.
I love David.
Yeah, David was one. And we had Jen on the phone, and we had Tara on the phone. You know, it's fabulous, man.
I think we could spend a huge portion of this night just having Eric copy everyone who's been there.
So true.
Well, back to the origin, because I tell you, if it weren't for this guys right here, I would have to do another night over at Flappers in Burbank, and I would awful.
Flappers.
Flapper. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that word.
He does not perform well there.
No.
I love you. I love you.
No.
No.
I had to resort to blue humor. Anyways, go on.
So,
Up the nose.
against all odds, Shaolin Chronicles ends up on Disney XD, where it gets the attention of some folks at Disney, Kyle Laughlin, who's now back at Disney, and I'm having lunch with Kyle on Tuesday, by the way.
Yes.
Well, it's all coming back. They saw it and they said they liked that show. They liked where it was going, and they were looking for a team that could come in and start something at a new part of Disney inside Interactive Labs and figure out where new technology and animation and games and VR, AR, all this was
You
brand
did
new.
all this.
Yeah, we were cooking
You
this
did
up.
all
Have
this.
cereal,
We did it.
you know,
You know,
any number of stuff.
it was all, and it's so.
Wow. Yeah.
But the
it's making it sound like it's no big deal.
No, but the
It's
part
all
that was funny, I guess, about it is that since we were Interactive Labs for Disney, we could kind of go across all the lines. We were doing stuff with Pixar, we were doing stuff with Lucas at one point. Like we were doing all this stuff, and we were pissing everybody off, getting everybody mad. Right? They're like, why do you get to make things?
You're doing cool stuff with the stuff that they were
Making good stuff.
My favorite quote from Joe is, "We got to make as much stuff as we can before they try to stop us."
Yeah, that's a producer's job.
We
did, yeah.
Get it done,
That's pretty much how we ran this too.
get it done before they try to stop us. Right?
Yeah,
So-
with like the Band on the Run album cover. Spotlight, like all of us taking cartoon characters. You know, like,
And it was like serpentine, and like over here, over there. But the glory of it was you would come in and like we were doing all this stuff, but we had great vendors and great animation studios working with us all outside of house. And so people would come in and go like, wait, how is this 10 people doing all of this stuff? And it was because we had sort of had just great teams of great people. Like animation is just about awesome people coming together to make creative stuff. That's all it was. And lucky enough, out of all of that, we did a bunch of stuff, but only so much of it could like see the light of day. Three Caballeros was one. We had Legend of Three Caballeros. And then right was kind of, we were getting through that and wrapping up. We got the Muppet Babies test put together. Well, when Muppets landed at, this was what was weird, Muppets landed at Interactive Labs.
Yep.
Like, where do we do with the Muppets?
That's so-
Put them with Interactive Labs. Because felt and VR is the perfect combination of two things that go great together.
The future.
Yeah, it's future. So we should have made a Kermit themed VR.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been the thing. We're looking for a product.
What do we do right now?
Let's go.
I got my Cintiq in the trunk. We can design some. Chris is here.
Let's go. Let's make a show right now.
Right now.
Why not?
It's happening right now on YouTube.
Well, and so the short, as you said, got Disney Junior's attention. They really liked it, and at that time, Interactive was sort of winding down. We sort of had to run for the fences, and we scattered like roaches, honestly. And we were like, let's go on, get as many people on that show as we can. Yeah. And Nancy introduced us to you and Joe. Why am I blanking? What's Joe's last name? I'm going to be
Joe D'Ambrosia.
Joe D'Ambrosia, who was so
That's
great.
okay.
He was our
Yeah.
exec.
Yeah.
And
Hi,
Joe.
Joe.
Hi, Joe. I know your last name.
Hi, Mom.
He championed the show. He championed the team. Nancy championed the team, and it was Oddbot Animation in Glendale got that put together with us. You guys,
Right.
Well,
it's
it
funny
all worked.
because Nancy brought in me, and then they talked about you guys, and both sides were sort of like, who's he? Who they? And we all got together, and we were like, oh, yay!
Well, you. We had shared a hall at Disney.
That's right.
TVA.
Well, and you had One Piece on your door,
Everywhere,
and so I was like, I want to go in there, and like a roach.
Oh, wait.
Like,
Let's back up to Cartoon Network with all the card games on the floor upstairs. Weren't you part of that?
oh, no, Pokemon.
Yes, all the Pokemon. All the Pokemon.
There was a whole like Pokemon trading card league.
It was insane. You on the second floor and walk, or the third floor and
Yeah,
you
where
walk.
everyone like had their own badge. I think mine was the smart little cocktail badge. And if you beat someone 10 times, then we had a whole chart. They owed you a drink.
See?
So
See? This is how it is in an animation studio.
And while we were on Muppet Babies, Pokemon Go came out.
Right.
And so at like a certain time every day, everyone in the studio would go to like one corner of the building. There's a there's a thing. There's a Pokemon gym right there or something.
That is so funny. Before we go on, I got a couple of things really quickly because we have some shout outs and some hellos. And I've got to just take a moment and say John McIntyre.
Hey, John McIntyre.
John!
Hi, John.
John!
Where is John nowadays?
You know what? Not in front of us enough, apparently.
Yeah.
And he should be here as well. But thank you for saying hi and being here and donating if you could and you would. I know you. And then also we have Scarlett Volpus. And I apologize if I'm just tearing up your name, but which I hear this often. I can't say enough about this. She wants to thank Tom for bringing so much happiness to her life.
Hey.
You have no idea when people hear that I directed Codename Kid Next Door, the joy, the revelations that the kids had during that show, it was amazing.
It's still, still to this day.
It's a rabid fan base, but they're all adults now, and they're
So if you are a fan of Codename Kids Next Door, what would the
Segue.
Codenames Kids Next Door say to their fan base to generate interest?
Well, we
in
had
this
number
donation?
1 and number 2 jump on.
Oh, they were here?
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
awesome.
he actually did pre-recorded. Ben along with
Ben did a
Skeletor.
bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did.
Gonzo.
Yeah.
Ben was
and
Gonzo.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Winning Gonzo.
The award-winning
Award-winning Kermit. Yeah, Muppet
Hey.
Babies was an Emmy award-winning show.
It was.
It
Yes,
was.
it was. A question for you. How was it working on the lead character of Pepper Ann?
Oh, so without getting too long of a story, when I first was started in the animation industry, I just moved to New York, and my mom said, I saw a commercial that a 7-Up commercial that looked like you drew it. It was Fido Dito.
Yes.
Yeah.
Popular. If it wasn't the spot, that was Seven.
Yeah.
Fido Ditto was also 7-Up. It was the squiggly line.
Yep,
big
with the hair,
guy.
and so and it kind of looked like how I drew my character.
Yeah.
Years later, I'm working at JJ Settlemeyer Productions. Hi, JJ.
Hi, JJ.
And I'm working on Fido Dito commercials, and I met Sue Rose, the creator of them, and we became really fast friends. And I ended up doing a lot of the marketing artwork for Fido and stuff like that. I did most of their merchandising drawings, and then she had done a cartoon strip for, at the time, Young Miss magazine called Pepper Ann, but it looked just like Fido Dito.
Okay.
So she started pitching that. She pitched the show to Nickelodeon and a couple different places. And Linda Smensky, who
Linda,
who is the head of Cartoon Network, who greenlit my show,
Yeah.
everyone's show.
every great show.
She was an executive at Nickelodeon at the time. She said, "Well, it looks too much like Fido. Like, why don't you have Tom redesign the characters? So why don't you guys work together?" And so we started redesigning them, and we messed around with it for a while, and we got it. And Nickelodeon loved it. And then Linda left Nickelodeon, and anything that smelled like her died. So
Fingerprints were wiped.
right. So Sue went to Disney,
Right.
and sold it to them.
There it is.
So then I was the lead character designer, and I did it it was all done here,
Yeah.
right in.
But you were in New York.
But I was in New York and did everything. Like I worked at JJ Settlemeyer's during the day, and at night I do character
Crazy.
design.
It all comes together.
And then I
It
would
all makes sense.
And then I would like fax, because that's how old we are. Fax.
When you're young.
Ooh, technology.
Yeah, I'd fax.
I got like the paper phone.
I'd have a.
There's the phone with the toilet paper roll. And it just keeps going and going and
At
going.
like 3 a.m, I'd have a Manhattan, and I'd like just listen to the grind of the as they went as the fax with all my designs came over here.
I'm living my dream.
right. But yeah, so that's how. And then I did that, and then that's what sort of inspired me to make my own shows, because Sue did these great pitch Bibles for a Fido Dito show, for Pepper Ann, for other stuff, and I was like, well, I can do one of those, and that's how I did Kenny and the Chimp.
It's amazing.
So
My brother was obsessed with Fido Dido, and now when I look at Pepper Ann, I think about like the way the sleeves and like the cuffs of the shorts. It kind of looks.
Oh, it's
in
next
that
door.
universe,
I mean, it's
yeah.
all like it's all
the hands.
the giant shoes, the hands, like it's all one and the same. So, although I recently posted that I started drawing the big sneakers from the Ramones Road to Ruin album. Like, that's the first time, and people were like, that blew a lot of minds.
I love it. Well, let's get back to your origin. I'm sorry. We had those few shout outs and we were talking about.
Yeah, because I want to get
Well, basically, where it went to was, they came to us and said, listen, interactive's not going to be interactive anymore. Disney Junior wants a show. What should we do? And we're like, let's have Disney Junior pay for the show. and we sort of lived through this kind of shuffle. And at the end of the day, I do remember that the caveat was, if you remember, the innovation, since we were an innovation lab, we were going to throw development out the window. We were just going to make the show.
Yeah.
We didn't do development.
No, we had just hit the ground running.
We just said, no, we're just going to start writing up.
So, wait,
Fix it. Oh boy.
Chris, were you there for all of this?
I saw it all.
Yeah.
I did it all.
Yeah.
I mean,
did it
like
all.
basically all of the early designs, this little guy here and over here.
So
I
these
got
are
first
your.
crack at everything.
This is the best kept secret in the industry, although it's
Well,
not such a secret anymore.
And Summer Penguin.
And Summer Penguin.
Yeah.
Summer was our.
yeah.
So one of the first things I said when we started talking about the show, I said, well, we need another girl character. Like, and there aren't a lot of, it's no secret, there aren't a lot of female Muppet characters.
Right.
And a lot of them are really deep dives.
Yeah.
So I wanted to come up with a new one. So we started playing around with ideas. First, we had a sheep named Bobby. The black
And
sheep.
then, and Consumer Products came back and said, no, there's already a sheep in Doc McStuffins.
Yep.
And we said, yeah, but we're the Muppets.
Right.
And there's room in the market for 2 sheep. And then
Yeah.
flying back, and we said,
Wales
boys, it's not a sheep.
So we hired tons of different designers to help us, and like, I mean, it must have been like 20 different designers.
Through every animal.
Yeah.
Me and
And
Chris were sitting
reindeer
across
at
from each
one
other, just
point?
throwing designs.
We went through like a Noah's Ark.
Well, how do you create a Muppet?
Right.
But,
Like, how
but
do you create a Muppet from
I
whole
mean, you
cloth?
have to take a lot into consideration.
Sure.
Coveted. I mean, to be a Muppet, and then what was the formula that ultimately happened? Just her design.
There have been popular Muppet penguins in the past as well. No, like those.
But they were kind of like
That's a funny story. Yeah.
I had only because in my
yeah.
memory,
Yes, I could see them.
because I'm a nerd.
Oh yeah.
But we had
I don't know if you
basically
could look around the room and you could pick who the biggest nerd is. It might be me.
Oh no, I can point it.
yeah, right, yeah. You have to,
Chris, tell us.
we
tell
had
us.
gone through every permutation and it was still like, that ain't it. So literally me and Tom just grabbed each other
No,
and
we
said,
said,
let's go in a room.
yeah.
We
Get
spread
old
out
school. We brought
paper,
like
pencils.
thumbnails,
We
huh?
put on some music, and we just said we're sitting here and doing it old school.
spread out like
practical.
all of the designs.
And just sat there
spread out
doodling.
everything on the
And literally,
table.
this is a 20-foot long table.
Yeah,
It was a huge conversation, just full of drawings. And like, we're like, yeah, that's kind of cool. And then
So what Tom was doing was just drawing furiously. We
Yep.
were drawing furiously, and papers are just flying
Yeah.
out of him.
Like-
You know, like the old Stephen J. Cannell in production.
Yes.
So one of the papers that slides across the table is this little bird-looking thing.
The
that looks
lollipop, like a
yeah,
lollipop
looks
head.
like an ice cream cone.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
the simplest
Yeah.
thing.
And so like I see that and I go like, hey, that's cool. And Tom's just like, what? But then the spark started happening and we started throwing stuff back
like
and
you
forth.
said, like,
and
hey,
going,
I like something here, and then he did something on it, and then passed back
Yeah.
to me, and then I did something, and it went back and forth. And then, I mean, my sketches are very, we still have the original sketch too.
Oh,
We
yeah.
framed it.
Oh, yeah,
I
we
forgot
framed it,
about
yeah.
it. And it's super raw and everything. But then Chris takes it and just makes
Yeah.
it.
well, but
superlative and
what
amazing.
I
But it's shape-
responded
it's shape
to
language.
about that
Yeah.
was shape language,
Yeah.
right? A lot of what we started with and what other designers were doing was very complex. And when you look at the original Muppet characters,
Like that.
look
Ping
at
pong ball.
ping pong ball,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like triangles,
Yeah, it's
you
all
know,
shapes.
with saucer shapes. Like, it was about boiling it all back down and getting a character that's very simple and very readable and very like
So
engaging.
loved. Oh my God, you loved her immediately.
Yeah, we loved her.
There was no warming
and then
up
I think
period.
we came in with 3 different
Yeah.
ideas to show Nancy.
Yes.
And she literally said, and we put them down on the table in front of her, and she said, the penguin. And I said,
Right away.
and I said, we want to name her Summer. She's like, great. I was like, wait, no, but we really, oh wait, you said yes?
And Hollywood history was made.
Because I thought usually you have to go through 10,000 names
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything.
Oh.
And right away she was just like, yep.
I love these stories tonight because we're hearing quite a few like ones that you don't expect, like the original voice of Barbie. She calls in, she does an interview, they bring her in the next day in front of all the execs in the booth, and they say before she leaves, welcome to the family, Barbie. You're going to be working tomorrow.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
and to hear things like that, this is unusual.
Well, Tom Kenny.
I want everybody
Tom
to know
Kenny getting the job with SpongeBob.
SpongeBob
not
without
trying it out.
auditioning.
You just,
Yeah, no audition. He
have the
was given
job.
it to. Yeah, but I mean, these are not the usual. So people,
No. Well, there's lightning in a
Nothing
ball.
we did on that team was the usual.
that's the good stuff.
Yeah.
But when Debbie McKellen, who was the head of the Muppets at the time, found out that it was a penguin, she told us that story about Jim Henson.
Yep.
Which was that
Ooh.
anytime he had trouble finishing a sketch, he would say, just throw the penguins in it.
Yeah.
And
That's how you
so
always
that's
tell
literally what
penguins
happened is
about
right before we started production, we threw a penguin in it.
That's
and
it's really
went
on
to work.
Full circle.
Yep.
So
Amazing.
I think it was probably Jim Henson shouting from above saying, "Throw a penguin!" You're like, listen, I got the penguin, and we're like,
There.
"What did he say?"
And it worked.
I
I said reindeer.
A sheep? No, that didn't work.
Oh, that is so funny. We got a question for you, Mr. Eric.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's basically wanting to know what it was like doing voiceover work up in Canada before you came down here.
Oh, well, that's a funny story because it felt, I feel like most of my career was here. I moved here. You know, actually, here's a little bit of my origin story.
Here's the story.
You were how old? You were
I was 99, so I was 17.
yeah. I was it was my 3rd year of college. I did my internship in Glendale at Spumco.
That's Spumco.
1999. I turned 21
Whoa.
in this city. Yeah. And this was before I even started. I was still in school for production, radio, television, and film production, not even animation.
Wow.
Not even any of that. I like to call myself at Spumco the studio therapist. I was the one that would walk door to door and make sure everyone was okay.
But like everybody
People
loved him.
weren't.
Bowser showed
No one
up.
was okay.
Bowser showed up and he was a star, and like everybody loved him, and I hated him. And I'm like, why does everybody like this guy so much? What's he got that I don't got? And then after
It's true. It's true.
Hey, it was really hard for me. No, but then after 10 seconds with the guy, I fell in love, and we've been besties ever since.
Matt has
So-
been one of the greatest
Yeah.
friends I've ever made in my life.
You were roommates.
Yeah, you were-
We
You were Fonzie and Kermit
in
and
real
you were
life.
roommates.
Yeah.
I like to say it was like a 7-season sitcom.
It was, yeah.
And then eventually
weird.
I had to leave because this guy was getting married, and I had my own sitcom. It's just called Just Bowser.
Actually, when I moved, Dave Foley lived on the floor above me, and we would always share an elevator. Me and Dave Foley, I'd always have a Toronto Blue Jays hat on. He'd go, Toronto, and I'm like, yep, and then dead silence because I was so nervous. I was like, this is the guy from Kids in the Hall. Dave Foley. But anyhow, yeah, my career, like I did my internship here, had to go back to Canada to graduate. Yep. And then it wasn't until I was watching a taping of Craig Kilborn that I would hear this weird like noise in the audience, and it was like I was like, that is that Matt?
And it was.
It was. I was watching. I remember Late Night with the Late Show with Craig Kilborn, and I was like, every time he would tell a joke, the audience would like laugh, and then I'd hear Mickey. I would hear this weird noise.
And I know you're not supposed to do that. And I was being a little jerk. And every time I did it, like everyone was looking around, like, who the hell is doing that?
It made like, you know how usually they edit that stuff out.
Yeah.
Like, it made the cut, and
Well,
I
'cause
remember
it was during the
watching it.
laughter.
And then I called you after like years. I go, were
He called
you?
me the next morning.
I go,
Called me up.
I go, weird question. Yeah. I haven't talked to you in 2 to 3 years. Were you at a taping of the Craig Kilborn show yesterday? And you're like,
Oh my God, yes. Wait a minute.
Like, well,
no, they didn't cut it out?
I was like, well, I guess I should move to LA and become Fozzie, and you become Kermit.
Yeah. Hollywood history, folks.
But it was weird because I moved back in 2003 and had no like, what do I do? Like, how do I? It was 6 Point Harness was the studio.
Yeah,
that,
I remember. I remember when you worked there.
Because I had already shut down Spunko 4 times already. Once in Canada and like 2 to 3 times here.
Was that before?
Like we
after
have some other
Coconut Fred?
studios that could use it.
Yeah.
They hung on to dry.
I was literally like just sent here to pack boxes for Spunko. Oh, we're out of business again? Okay.
Grim Reaper of animation.
I was like, this is, I should just have become a moving company for this, just for Spunko. But it was 6 Point Harness that saved my ass. Brendan Birch, you know, and it was so weird. I wasn't getting voice gigs here, but I had to fly
To Canada to give voice
to work on
gigs.
Coconut Fred.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Coconut Fred's
So
Freestyle Island.
so Bowser would. It was so funny because Bowser lived here, and I think you had moved in with me already.
I was still living at my uncle's.
You were okay, but you hang out a lot because I
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
you just it basically happened. But every time you had a voice record, you had to fly back to Canada.
I would
You
do
had
it.
to be
even though he lived in the
physically in
US.
Canada.
So I would fly.
Yeah.
It would literally. It was Bobby Page and.
Yeah.
So I would wake up, fly to Vancouver, do a session, and fly back and walk into Warner Brothers that same day.
No.
And they'd be like, "You were just in Vancouver. You're a witch. Yeah, burn him."
Burn him.
Like, how did he get here that fast? But the flight is only 2 hours. It's
Right.
like 3 hours.
You were in-house working on Coconut Fred.
Not a Coconut Fred,
Not
yeah.
then yet, but I remember being one of the last jobs at 6 Point before I quit to become
Right.
full-time voiceover. I was voicing El Tigre and working on the show technically as an overseas studio. So I would draw all my scenes really nice. All my White Pantera. Jorge Gutierrez again.
Another person who I owe my firstborn to.
Oh yeah.
Oh no,
Jorge.
maybe second. No,